Open them. What do you see? Do you see despair, or do you see beauty and hope? What do I see? I see the future. I see almost 1 billion young people, and I see them playing a huge part in the next technological revolution, the fourth industrial revolution.
4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff.
This year alone, SpaceX will make more rocket engines than the rest of U.S. production combined.
Now let's talk about iOS. Yes, it's iOS 13. The world's most powerful mobile operating system.
Self-driving car technology that sounded like science fiction just a couple of years ago is now a reality.
Imagine Africans being masters of industry. Do you see it too? You probably don't. Honestly, we still have basic problems to settle.
Now, many African countries are regularly troubled with moderate to severe power outages.
I think Africa's infrastructure deficit is approximately $90 billion every year for the next decade.
Africa needs infrastructure.
But what if we decide to see technology, artificial intelligence specifically, as a way to solve basic problems more efficiently? Look at my good friend Charles. He's always been passionate about tackling birth asphyxia. He built Ubenwa, an AI mobile app that helps to diagnose birth asphyxia in 10 seconds. Or Rita and Paris, who grew up around smallholder farms that struggle to get loans from banks. They built Farm Drive in Kenya to help smallholder farmers obtain great credit scores, all from a mobile application. Or Desmond, who just wants to feed the world from Africa. His complete farmer app uses AI to detect pests and diseases early and even allow anyone to invest and manage their own farm from a laptop. How about these solutions to our basic problems, huh? Are you seeing what I'm seeing yet?
There's now or never, Africa. We invariably missed out on the first 3 industrial revolutions. We can't gamble with the 4th one. We shouldn't. Artificial intelligence is not an afterthought. It's a workable solution to our most important problems and an enabler for our bright future.
Close your eyes again. I hope you see it now.
So thank you everyone for joining us, and I'm really happy to see the numbers given it's on Saturday. I'm glad that all of you are able to make it. So I'm just going to take you through a start of the session and then hand it over to our moderator for today. And I'm really excited about this session because we have been talking about ChatGPT and we have been saying about ChatGPT a lot, and I'm just glad all of you are in this journey with us to learn more about it from our amazing partners at Alliance4ai and the amazing team we have brought in to talk about ChatGPT. So before we get started, I'd like again to welcome you all to this session and where we are building AI together. This is a collaboration between Zindi and Alliance4ai. We can move to the next slide. Next slide.
Just a minute.
Okay. Okay, so as we continue, I'll just mention what Zindi does. Zindi is a professional network for data scientists across Africa, whose mission is to mobilize a vibrant community of data scientists across Africa, solving region's most pressing problems. And we have amazing ambassadors across Africa where we host 30+ events monthly with our ambassadors. And this is an amazing session that we have been able to collaborate with Alliance4ai. You'll learn more about Alliance4ai as we continue. And we are looking forward to the amazing sessions that we have. But for those who haven't joined our community yet, you can scan the QR code on the next slide. And feel free to join our community of 800 amazing data scientists on WhatsApp. and I will just share the links down below so that you can be able to follow. And please feel free to share whatever comments you might have on our channel and even our socials. We're looking forward to this session and engage and let us engage and learn today and share our stories. I will like to hand it over now to our moderator from Alliance4ai, Betty, to take it up so that we can learn more about the session and get started. So Betty, to you.
Thank you so much, Rose. Hello to everyone and good morning for those who are joining from Kenya. My name is Betty Wairegi, and I'm also part of the team in Alliance4ai that's doing this wonderful job. So I'm just gonna start with some housekeeping rules. Like you can see on the slide, let us be quiet, let's be muted as the speakers are talking. Let's definitely engage. Let's have an active participation in this discussion that we're having because it's a very interesting discussion. Yeah, and let's use the chat section to drop any questions. Yeah, let's engage. This is a time to learn. This is a time to discuss, the future of tech, especially in Africa, and just to hear what you young people expect or require, just for tech in Africa. So thank you so much for joining us, for those who are joining from different parts here in Africa. And yes, we do have an exciting panel today with us. ChatGPT being the tech talk of 2023. Some of you are using it, just let us know in the chat section. How do you use ChatGPT? Do you use it for work? Do you use it for school? Let us know in the chat section actually how you do that. I think, Rose, you can actually help me to engage with people over there so that they can actually let us know how they do it. And yes, we do have an incredible panel today with us, a panel of 4. And they're gonna share nuggets and tips on how we can use ChatGPT, how we can use conversational AI, Gen AI, to actually help us to be better in, in the work we do in the different industries we aspire to be in. So I really, really highly urge you to use our socials. They're actually down here. Share what you've learned. Tag us at Alliance4ai Learning, tag us at Alliance4ai. We really want to know your feedback and how you enjoyed the session. So be sure to actually do that. Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Yes, let us know how this has been for you. So with no further ado, I will actually give the floor to the speakers. And our first speaker is Ashley Ogoda. Our first speaker is Ashley Ogoda. Yes, you can take the floor. Yeah.
That's me. Hi, everyone. You ready, Betty?
Yes, let me stop sharing so that I can get a chance. Yeah, you can go.
You're good at.
I think somebody's mic is on, Penina. Yeah.
Can you let's have ourselves muted?
All right. Let me just start sharing. Sorry, it's like asking me to go to system preferences to just start sharing for some reason. Yeah, Zoom, okay. Give me a moment, guys. Okay. Right. Do let me know if you can if you can see anything now. Can we see my screen?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
perfect. Right. So, okay, now we can start formally. So my name is Ashley Ogonda. I'm really, really glad to be able to be part of this conversation. So thank you so much to Alliance4ai and Zind for inviting me. I am a journalist. I've been a journalist for the last, coming up to 8 years now. And for most of those years, I have not used AI. But just to quickly go back to my intro, I'm actually based here in Nairobi. I've worked in journalism in London for companies like Channel 4 and Channel 5. And now I currently work for the BBC here in Nairobi. But before I even start, I would love to just first caveat, put a strong pause and say, I am not an AI expert. I am speaking for the people who have recently discovered it with the advent of ChatGPT and have come to understand and realize just the lengths at which it can benefit my productivity. So I would love to share with you how I've been using it in my world of work and also in my personal life. So we'll start with first how I've mainly been utilizing AI professionally. So one of the things that we obviously do as journalists is we kind of have to be a jack of all trades. You're telling stories about so many different people and communities, and a large part of that is involving you learning about these communities. So what I've found AI with ChatGPT specifically, it's been so useful to just help me to understand how to start that process of getting to know a particular community. So for this example, I was doing a story about a community known as the Hyundai people. They're kind of indigenous to DRC, not kind of, they are indigenous to the DRC, DR Congo. And I don't think not many people know about them just because they're a very small tribe. So even taking on the task of telling this story was already quite intimidating. I hope you can see me. Can we all see me? Just confirm if you can still see me.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Yeah, so I found AI to be super useful in helping me build guided frameworks for research. And it's also been extremely useful for giving me like a quick access to historical context about communities like the Hyundai people, for example. But the more important effort that it's really served is helping me to find a catalog of recognized organizations and resources that can help me and assist me in my research process, basically. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes, excuse me, sorry, I am really intimidated when I see a blank page and you just have to start filling it. When I go to ChatGPT, for example, and I send a prompt like, hey, can you help me understand more about the Hyundai people, help me build a research framework for learning about them, it kind of gets rid of the anxiety of just working from a blank page, and it sets like a building block for you to start working from. So I find it super useful for that. The other thing that I really enjoy using AI for is in my work is generating content ideas. So this can look like once you've actually amassed all of this historical knowledge about the people group, if I was to do that story, for example, once you've amassed all of this knowledge and information about a particular story, what do you actually do with it? For the most part, you don't need to tell everything from A to Z. You kind of just need to niche and hone in on one single aspect and build a story from that. So this also AI I've found with ChatGPT specifically, it's helped me to kind of break down, okay, what are the cultural, what would be in the example for the Hyundai people, what would be the cultural traditions that they would adhere to? What kind of artistic expressions are they known for? What are practices that are indigenous to them, for example, that we can tell stories about? It really helps to break down the research and just turn the content ideas that you have into an actual story rather than like I said, be intimidated by working from a blank page. It just helps you with a springboard. Lastly, I want to also show, this is not the last slide, but I also wanted to share what I would not use it for. I wouldn't use or rely on AI so far just for finding sources. Sorry, did I hear someone? Oh, sorry. Okay, never mind. I wouldn't use AI to rely on finding my sources. And because I feel like some of the information that you end up finding there is a little bit outdated. And I still feel like there's better resources that you can go to validate the information or claims that you're making in your stories as a journalist. Also, there's this kind of industry jargon that we always use, which is to say that a journalist is only as good as their sources. And as much as ChatGPT is super useful for productivity, and helping you be more productive in your work, I still don't think it can fully replace the quality of sources that you acquire from years of investing in relationships and, relationships with actual people without just researching. This is one of those things that just can't be replaced quite as easily, at least not just yet. We don't know what the next 10 years has in store for us. The other thing that I would say that I wouldn't rely on AI for is audience engagement only. So say, for example, that you're covering a breaking news story as a journalist. If you completely replace your audience engagement with AI, you might end up in a situation where you're feeding inaccurate information to your audience on a live you're giving live updates that are inaccurate. So usually in the cases of breaking news, even when you're not working with AI, you have to be super sensitive about what you're saying, because there's always something constantly changing, hence the nature of breaking news. So you really need to be more hands-on in such a situation. And those are the kind of predicaments that I would not recommend using AI for. And lastly, I did say that I also use AI on more, to be honest, I use it more for personal reasons than professional. And one of the ways I wanted to share is I use it to literally plan everything. And when I say anything, I say anything and everything can be planned with AI. So recently I started taking powerlifting seriously. I became a proper powerlifter and I'm preparing for my first competition in August. And I went to AI I went to ChatGPT rather, and I asked ChatGPT to create a 9-week powerlifting program that would help me max out on my current 1-rep maxes for the squat, deadlift, and bench press lift, which are the 3 lifts that you do in powerlifting. And lo and behold, it created you can't see all of it here, but it created such a detailed, a very detailed 9-week program that was all inclusive with things like deloading and, all these intricacies that you tend to see when you work with a personal trainer. It had all of that in the program. And this is one of the things that really astounded me about ChatGPT. I have friends who've said that they use it for meal planning. They use it for PowerPoint presentations, for example. I didn't use it for this one, funny enough, but I found it still super, apart from these screenshots that you see, but I find it amazing the kind of things that it has simplified in our day-to-day lives. And I think that's the real magic of AI and artificial intelligence. It's benefiting us at a very, micro personal level, and it's affecting our lives on the whole. And for me, it has been super useful, super helpful in my professional and personal life. And yeah, that is what I had to share. I don't know if I opened the floor to questions. Betty, please let me know what you'd like me to do next.
Thank you so much, Ashley. Questions will be done right after all speakers have gotten a chance to actually speak. So let's just keep the questions rolling in. I'm actually finding it interesting that you use ChatGPT for powerlifting, to enhance your hobbies.
Yes, absolutely. I feel like I was also shocked by how well it created such. When I say, guys, I took this program to one of the best lifters in Kenya and I showed them, this is the sample program that it created. And it actually, they were able to certify it as a legit program, basically. And that's somebody who's been learning and training people for years and years, and they were able to identify that this is actually a proper program. Now, what I still ended up doing is tweaking it to, I've had to adjust it based on more research that I've done on powerlifting, but it was, again, what I think I'm seeing a consistent theme. It's a great springboard to develop your ideas even more. So it helps ease the anxieties of working on a blank page, giving you something to work with that you can further develop into something more amazing.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So for those who don't know what hobbies to take, ChatGPT can actually help you do that. So thank you so much, Ashley. And I'll take this time to invite our next speaker, who is John Olafenwa from Microsoft. You can take the stand.
Hello. Thank you. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, we can see your screen.
All right, cool. Yeah, good morning, everyone. And thanks, Ashley, for the previous presentation. That was quite really interesting. It's been quite a very interesting time. So I work as a scientist at Microsoft Research Cambridge, and for the past several years, I've been, building AI models and, developing AI systems. And I'll say, personally myself, that I was really surprised and amazed by what ChatGPT could do, because it frankly took, the whole of the AI community, by surprise. And it's been, today I'm going to shed a little bit more light on, I use it personally, and now I've seen other people use this, both as developers and, as scientists as well. I think one of the interesting things, to mention ahead of time is, how these models keep improving and getting better. And it's previously we could really build AI systems, which I'll call weak AI systems, and we knew exactly what they could do. What they could do was predefined ahead of time, and then we trained them to do that. And this was the first time that, AI systems will be such that we build them and they can do a lot of things that we didn't think they could do before, and they just keep surprising us all the time. And so this is quite an interesting development. First off, one of the most amazing things ChatGPT can do is helping you learn new concepts. And thinking about this as a developer, working as an engineer, working as a scientist, there is a lot of things you typically have to learn. You could be working on a new project, which might involve new concepts and new domains that you're not very familiar with. For example, I started as a web developer, then became a mobile developer, and then spent some time doing web development, DevOps, before finally switching careers to work as a scientist. So it's been learning new things all the time. And that's always been really hard and challenging, because you have to go through a whole ton of documentation, and sometimes you have to even know where to start from, what syllabus should you use and all of that. And ChatGPT can really help, both in terms of forming syllabuses for you, and also in terms of actually helping you learn each topic, right? In this case, I asked ChatGPT to teach me vector quantization, which is a way of turning continuous signals into discrete ones. And this is a technique that's been highly involved in some recent works in AI, in terms of speech and in terms of images as well. And I was curious about it, just to learn more about it. And it's not only able to explain what it does, but also gives me step-by-step code in PyTorch, which is the AI framework that's often used to build AI models, including ChatGPT itself. And it gives me step-by-step instructions, implements the code, on actually how to do this, right? So now not only, and this is quite long, again, I've pasted just the beginning of it. And I'm not only able to see the explanation, but I also see layer by layer, what's the code, by which I'm able to understand it both from a code and explanation perspective. And this is really, really powerful and a very incredible way of learning new things and implementing them. And if you think about this, let's say you are in a new job, or maybe you are in a new team, which happens all the time, especially in a big organization like Microsoft. You switch teams frequently, and you then need to work with new things that you're not super familiar with. You could use this as a starting point, sort of, not working from a blank slate, like Ashley mentioned the other time, like you have something like you could begin with, and then you could like modify, you could build on top of this, you know, to be able to like maybe implement new solutions or solve new problems that you previously have not solved. And that's like just like learning new concepts. Another thing is like generating guides of complex problems. So example here is like I'm trying to like get instructions on how to create a Kubernetes cluster on Microsoft Azure and deploy, you know, some nodes on it. Now, this is a fairly complex task because Kubernetes is like this software infrastructure that powers, you know, many of the high traffic websites in the world. And that's like, you know, a problem that includes like distributed systems and all of that. And people will say like, this is really hard. Kubernetes is typically considered, you know, a very complex system. And to do something like this, you know, typically you need to like go through a lot of documentations, Azure documentations on Kubernetes websites, documentations from a bunch of places. And that can be really hard because it's one thing to like understand each documentation, right? It's another thing then to be able to like relate concepts from one documentation to the other. And yeah, ChatGPT is able to like, you know, encapsulate all of that into like one single explanation that's coherent with like everything you need to do. And it gives you step-by-step instructions, install these, and gives you the code to actually run on terminals, how to run it. And it's really amazing to be able to do this because when you think about it, sometimes you are, you know, maybe a scientist like researching how to build the next ChatGPT, right? And then for some reason you want to deploy, you know, a web application, right? Which is like not your primary area of expertise because you're not maybe a DevOps person or a web person, you are like a researcher. And then, but you have some basic programming skills. But with something like ChatGPT, you could be able to like actually get instructions on, oh, with my basic programming skills, even though I'm not an expert in this, you know, programming domain, like how can I do this? I can follow these instructions and actually do it, which means, you know, as a developer doing one thing, you can actually use this to augment your skills and do a bunch of new things that, you know, you typically have to like maybe hire a different person to do for you or stuff like that. Again, that brings back into questions of like, you know, jobs and stuff like that. But this can really augment each individual and like make them a lot more experts on domains that might be a lot more complicated for them. Well, so another interesting thing is finding bugs. And software is riddled with bugs all the time. When we install an application and it's crashing, it's not working well, or just when you release a software and there's a vulnerability in it, typically programmers spend days like just trying to debug code, just trying to find bugs in code. And this is one of those things that could, you know, affect productivity the most. But finding bugs is like one of the major jobs that programmers have to spend most of their time doing. And so you can think about, you have like 1,000 lines of code or 50,000 lines of code spread across different files. And then there's this bug somewhere and you don't know where it is. And now you have to be like going through the code line by line, trying to find out what exactly did you maybe misspell, and especially in a language like Python, which could be subject to such things. And ChatGPT, you could just put that entire code into something like ChatGPT, and it's going to identify for you exactly where the bug is. So in this case, I've written a code which I deliberately introduced 2 bugs into, and I just asked ChatGPT to find the bugs in this code. And it's able to identify, first, I'm missing an import statement, and second, I misspelled something, there's a typo, right? And this is really interesting. Like it just identified those 2 bugs instantly. And even with like a lot more complicated code, it can do this. And this is like a really big time saver that could cut, you know, having to spend days trying to find what's wrong with your code to just a minute, literally, or just a few seconds. And so this is quite a very big productivity boost for developers. And furthermore, it's like when you write code, sometimes, you know, depending on your level of expertise, your code could run fine, but might be slow, might not be performant enough. And then when you're like building software that is supposed to like, you know, work for like billions of people, you want your code running really fast, because you can think about like if every single compute that is wasted on code that is slow could easily turn into millions of dollars in loss, because like a code that's supposed to run in 1 second and runs in 2 seconds instead could change your cloud cost from $1 million to $2 million, so to speak. And so code performance is like really important. And even if you're not like a super expert in code optimization, you could use something like ChatGPT to actually rewrite your code to be more performant. So here, I want to like compute a dot product, something we call a dot product, which happens to underlie a lot of this whole, AI code. It's just a multiplication of like 2 vectors or 2 matrices. And, I particularly wrote a loop to do it here, which is, the most inefficient way to do it. And yeah, I wrote that code to be not so good, but it works. And I asked ChatGPT to like write the code to be more performant. And yeah, it's able to like actually identify for me, for a single function that I'm supposed to use, the dot product function in NumPy, that's going to actually make this, a lot more performance. Now, I might not be aware of this dot product function, which could actually, a vectorized way. Is there any question, Hassan?
Good morning, sir.
I think someone is unmuted.
Mahesh, the la gonna have.
Thank you for muting. So it's rewritten this code for me to be a lot more optimal. This is the most optimal version of this code it can be. And it's really interesting. While this is just like a very simple case scenario, if you have like a lot more complicated code, which you might not really be clear what you're supposed to do to make it more performant, ChatGPT, with its broad knowledge of coding, can actually help to write your code to be a lot more fast, to run a lot faster. And okay, it's something written up on my code. Okay. There's something up with this presentation. Someone has drawn something on it.
Present it for a second.
Let me stop here.
But yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you very much, John. I imagine you've probably gone through most of your presentation. That's incredible use cases of GPT.
Should I reshare and finish it off, or what should I do?
I think that's good for that part. Is there a big piece you wanted to add? Maybe you can just speak about it.
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, just I think one last thing to talk about was like, you guys might have seen this ChatGPT code interpreter that was just released.
Hey John, what's up?
Hello.
You can ignore that.
Hey John.
Funny people.
Hey John, what's up?
But it's okay. Yeah, you can continue.
Okay, cool. Right. So you guys might have seen this ChatGPT code interpreter, which was recently released. You could just put in your data, your CSV, JSON, your data sets, and it could do very powerful data analytics on it, just like you will get to data scientists. So yeah, that's pretty much everything that I want to talk about today. Yeah, thank you very much. Any questions, please?
Thank you so much, John, for your insights. That has been really helpful, especially for students who are beginning their journey in software engineering, trying to find their way to learning code. I think this is the best time for students to learn. The best time. Yeah, thank you so much, John. I'll welcome our next speaker. Due to time, we'll definitely have questions at the end, so keep your questions on hold. So our next speaker is Essa. You can take the floor.
Hi, everyone. Just checking while I'm bringing up my screen. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Great. You can see my screen?
Yep.
Yes, we can see
Great. Good morning, everyone. My name is Isa Mohammed Ali. I wear a lot of different hats. So currently my major title areas, I'm the director at the Tanzania AI Lab and Community and an innovation associate at the World Food Program. Starting off with some disclaimers because, you know, the moment everyone gets involved with like the UN, they have to put those disclaimers. My opinions are purely my own and do not represent my organization's opinions. Everything that I've done for the purpose of this presentation is purely for educational purposes. If you use these tools in some of the ways that I'll be talking about, please be very diligent about it, especially because we'll be talking a bit more about grant and proposal writing. And we understand that can be a very sensitive area, especially because we are either including sensitive information that could be intellectual property for an organization, or alternatively, because we are applying for large amounts of support and funding, and we want to make sure we are submitting accurate, relevant, and specific information. So those are some disclaimers before we get started. So, okay, anyways, I made these slides very quickly. So in grant and proposal writing, a lot of the areas that I would have wanted to cover about, thankfully, have already been talked about. And we share very similar overlaps with the aspects of the journalism conversation, where when getting started with grants or proposals, there's usually that cold start problem, staring at that blank screen. We want to get started, but thankfully, at least with a lot of grants, we get an RFP. So we get that initial document that describes exactly what they're looking for, how much funding, sometimes what their judging criteria is, and a lot of that. And with a tool like GPT now, that makes it a lot easier to synthesize the information we have and start doing what we call matching, or rather what I like to call massaging a concept in. So what I like to do is give it a prompt, something like, you're a grants expert now. I'm going to give you the application, and I will give you the context of that application. And then I'm going to give you maybe a concept that I have that I'd like to apply for this particular grant with. And in this case, I'm using the example of a grant that WFP actually just launched, the Global Innovation Grant. And I'll send the Global Innovation Challenge. I'll send the link for anyone that's interested to apply for that. So we give it the context. We tell it, this is what's happening. This is what we're interested in. Contextualize everything to this conversation. And then now that I've provided it the context, I give it the actual application form. I'm like, I want it to do as much work for me as possible. So I give it the actual application form and let it fill out all that information for me. Did I include the responses? I was more excited about what I'm going to talk about later. So I give it these two pieces of information, and it gives me a more or less ready-made application that goes into some of the specific questions they ask, everything based on what they really wanted in the application form. So that's been a very interesting use case that we've been using in grant applications. But from what we've seen so far is that its major strength area is curating all the information. When I have most of the contents that I want to apply ready to go, and I just need to learn or to be able to customize it to fit into that application a bit better, or contextualize it more to the domain they're looking for, is where it's a lot better. And then being able to massage the content there, it gives you a response. So some of the responses that we received, for example, when I was playing with it, is I'm applying with an idea. And one of the questions in the application form is, what's the traction you have? And it tells me that, so the answer it gives me to fill in is that we don't have any traction yet, but I have a good feeling about it. So I can't really put that in a proposal, at least not when I'm applying for like $100K, $200,000 kind of proposal. So I'm like, okay, I can't really use that. So let's get a bit more specific into the type of languaging used, and let's be very specific on the context and type that we are focusing on. So when it comes to those types of information, if we are able to provide, it becomes very useful and a lot more flexible. But generally speaking, as we've seen, it's very generic. If you are relying on it for context and for subject matter knowledge, then the information it'll give back to you is going to be very generic. You stand a better chance of doing your own research first around the topic areas, summarizing some of the key information and providing that to it along with all of your other requests and such. Then it focuses on that type of context or domain, and the information it gives you back is a lot more relevant, interesting. And the second thing is you may have seen proposals that are very long proposals, where by the end of it, you're coming out with a document that is quite something. And for context like that, it doesn't keep hold of the memory for long enough, especially when you're like, okay, first I want you to focus on this subject. Here's the application form. Here is my concept. Here is some extra research that's come in. Take all of this together. Before, it was a little bit easier when the browser plugin was still enabled, but they've since disabled the browser plugin, so it can't search the internet on its own anymore, which is a little bit inconvenient. But this is where I transitioned very quickly into a fun little experiment that I've been doing. And for those of you who know, Code Interpreter has come out. And since today's session is with Zindi, I decided to have some fun. And my question basically coming into this was, I don't code at all. Can I participate in a Zindi hackathon without writing a line of code and still end up somewhere on the leaderboard? So that's what I tried to do. So this is one of the challenges that's up on Zindi right now. I copied and pasted the entire description and everything. So if you read into this enough, you'll be able to see what challenge it is. So copy and pasted the whole context. And then I uploaded the data set. So I took the training data set, I uploaded it directly. I gave it the challenge context and told it, okay, this is what we have to do. Let's go. So first, it started doing all the data analysis on its own. It went in, it analyzed what type of data is here, what's going on, what do I have to look at? It's identified missing values, what data types are there, and did its own thing. I'm like, look, I'm not a technical person. I'm going to trust it entirely. Let's see what it does. So it did the analysis, it did visualization, and it brought forth some analysis around the status of the people, geography, things like that. And it told us that the next steps are going to be, let's do some data cleaning, let's do some feature engineering, let's build the model out of it. And from there, it actually started to do the data cleaning internally. It made some mistakes. It started to adjust them and continue to do all the data augmentation that it needed to do. I'm just like, proceed, just to keep it continuing. And so from there, it ended up developing the model internally. It hasn't even, I haven't needed to open my Jupyter notebook or anything yet to put the code into, nothing. This is still happening all internally. It starts with a logistic regression model. It gives me the information. It's like, here's the accuracy, here's the F1 scores, gives us all of that. I'm like, okay, great. Let's try something else. It goes for a random forest model. And it still continues computing all of this internally. I still haven't opened my Colab. I still haven't tried to copy any of the code yet. I only realized this later on that, okay, now we're reaching certain limits where I need to start copying some of this code into my own areas. And at the end, I'm like, okay, here's a sample of how we're supposed to submit. Can you give me the predictions in this format? I didn't even do that on my own. Gave it that. It had made two models by this point that we wanted to focus on, and these were XGBoost models. One that used all the features that were available, another that only used the top 10 features that were available. And I took these and I uploaded them to Zindi. It gave me the CSVs to download directly. I didn't even open the CSVs. I downloaded them and uploaded them straight into Zindi. And here we are. So with about like a couple of minutes of sitting, staring at my screen, telling it to proceed and uploading a few data sets, I got placed on a Zindi hackathon that I didn't write a single line of code for or do anything for. I have the CSVs. I can copy the codes into the Jupyter notebooks, and I have my entire code line and visualizations and everything. But of course, there are limits to this. I did want to experiment more and see how far into the leaderboard I could get, but unfortunately, I did not get the time for that. So some interesting limitations or learnings that we found was basic computations. It can do it internally within the model itself. The logistic regressions, all of that. And just in case, I did copy the code base to validate the models and such, just to make sure it's not making up numbers and that kind of thing. And it seemed like it was doing some of the computations internally to generate the baseline models. But the moment we started going to more complex models that actually required some training, it was like, no, OpenAI isn't going to let us use that amount of compute. Over time, as the conversation gets a lot longer because it's producing a lot of output, it loses context. It will forget what it's talked about above. It will lose track of the data sets, and we have to upload it or keep on reminding it and such. And then, of course, the subject matter expertise side of things. Having a subject matter expert in any problem area is, of course, very valuable. So yeah, that was a fun little experiment that I worked on because why not? Thank you.
Thank you, Essa. There's so many ways that ChatGPT can actually make us become a little bit lazy. But yeah, that's really nice, especially for the Zindi competition. Wow. Data analysts, it's a good thing, but like he said, there are limits. So I think at the end of the day, it's good to put in the work. That really matters. So thank you so much, Essa, for that. And I will take this chance to welcome our final speaker, Christy Penda. I hope I haven't pronounced your name badly, but yeah, you can join the stage and share with us what you have.
Well, you didn't butcher it that much. My name is Chris
Okay.
Tibemba.
All
I
right.
am the founder's associate of at Tree, and Tree is an e-mobility startup based in Tanzania. What we currently do is we build electric bajajis, electric three-wheelers in Tanzania. So let me just share my screen right now. Okay. Can everybody see the screen? Hello? Hello?
Your
Can you
screen
guys
has
hear me?
not started.
It's coming. It's coming.
Okay, how about now?
Not yet.
Okay, it's telling me that I'm screen sharing. I'm not sure if it's screen sharing though.
Yeah, that's what it's saying. It's saying that you started screen sharing, but it's not showing anything.
Maybe stop it and try it one more time.
Okay, let me stop sharing. Share screen. Just the entire screen, Windows, Chrome tab. Okay, one more time. Anything?
Not yet.
Yikes. Okay, in respect to time, I'm gonna just spitball here because most of the things that I kept here weren't prompts, but there are more conceptual ideas in regards to strategy and marketing, especially with the new use of AI in strategy and marketing. I think one thing that we should note down is that there's a importance in AI for strategy and marketing, and especially in the fact that it gives you the competitive advantage in this field. You can get real-time insights. Okay, this is when we had the whole plugin, the web browsing plugin. You'd actually get proper real-time insights, and then it would help you in your decision making. Then from there, you can get great, innovative, and creative ways to deal with problems, especially in marketing and strategy. I previously worked in in the film industry for about 3 years, and what I can tell you during that time, when it came to dealing with creative modeling for your customers, it was a tedious task, especially if you're as uncreative as I am, you know. But with the launch of ChatGPT, it really opened the foresight. But before I go into um, into that in regards to content creation, I'm going to talk about customer support, what AI can or ChatGPT in this case help us in customer support. Um, you know what I believe is that chatbots represent a significant part in the future for customer support, and the main reason why I believe that is that we have the 24/7 availability of the bots. They are easily scalable. They can be properly personalized for each client, and they're cost efficient. And the beautiful thing about ChatGPT is that they've been able to give us their API, and if you're a developer, it's easy for you to use the ChatGPT API to link it into for your chatbots, give them the proper knowledge base, and you have a lovely bot that can deal with your customer 24/7. Another field that ChatGPT is very useful is in content creation. Like I said previously, brainstorming and creating concepts is a hassle. It is a hassle. If you want to get your customer really grilled up with your concepts, they'll be like, you need to bring in something nice and fresh. And that's where ChatGPT does come in. ChatGPT and all these other AIs that can build you images um, have honestly made life easier for content creators, um, especially with scripting, creating mood boards if you use DALL-E as well, creating shot lists that would match your scripts, and creating an overall project plan. I can totally say that ChatGPT has been great in that hand too. Now, if we get into the aspect of research and strategy, ever since this has been released to the market, the way we collect and analyze information has reached an amazing level of advancement. I can personally talk about the fact that in my day-to-day work, especially since we are one of the front runners in regards to e-mobility in Tanzania, we have to have that precision when it comes to how we are going to develop our strategies to penetrate this market, especially the fact that it's new. And because it's new, it is imperative for you to create the correct baseline. Now internally, we have our own frameworks in regards to strategy creation, such as the SQA framework, issue trees, creating proper hypothesis overviews, experiment cards, and then visualizing all of that in analysis plans. If you've never done this before, it is taxing. It is mentally taxing. And this is where ChatGPT does come in. It really ensures that you can get proper insight, or maybe it can allow you to see the flaws of your logic. You can literally share your PDF version of, let's say, the strategy that you're trying to implement, and you can tell ChatGPT to give you like proper constructive feedback before sharing it with the team, and it can grill you up. You can literally see the flaws in logic and how we can improve strategy A and to ensure that we get the goal in line. But despite that, this technology is beautiful, we need to understand that there are limitations. Einstein once said that once we accept our limitations, we can go beyond them. And I do believe that this is the case for ChatGPT or any other LLM in the space at the moment. We must be honest about its limitations. And I think the very first thing, and the most important thing, is the data quality and bias limitation. I made a couple of notes in regards to that. Like, realistically, if data is incomplete and biased or unrepresentative, you would really get skewed results. And if you've read about of AI, and this is usually the case here, it's really dependent on what the people at OpenAI have trained this AI and its data sets, and how the quality of these responses are mainly tied into the data that's been fed into it. Another thing could be the human oversight. Realistically, in the end of the day, despite the fact that AI or ChatGPT is great and all, but we gotta deal with one truth, is that sometimes human oversight is needed. I remember when I was creating a strategy plan for the team, and I shared it. And mind you, I used ChatGPT all the way through. Human oversight came through, and my boss told me, like, hey man, we need to change this. It doesn't really make sense. And that could be also due to another limitation that ChatGPT does have, is the limited contextual understandings of the problem. Sometimes these AI models don't really understand the context and influences to the real world knowledge. So this does lead to a lot of misinterpretation. And yeah, what I can conclude is that realistically, this technology, it is the future. And as soon as we understand that that these limitations can be fixed, the sky's the limit for us. Thank you very much.
Absolutely amazing, Chris. Thank you very much. I thought that was a perfect way to kind of close some of the presentations. We've heard about incredible use cases and applications, and now we've heard about ways that you can be careful while you use this at work. In fact, the way we call it in my workplace is ChatGPT and all the AI tools, they're your interns, okay? You have an intern, yes. They do the first draft for you, but you are the human. You have to have oversight and check on what has just written, but it makes you so much faster. Let me then even now share to you guys about Alliance4ai a bit. I want to thank you all for coming to this event. I want to also thank you guys for engaging on the chat. We really enjoyed it, and this is what we love. Let me come back to the main slide deck here. Right, and immense thanks to all the speakers, Ashley, John, Essa, and you, Chris. You guys have been truly fantastic and bringing this conversation to everybody. In fact, on the let me hit the slideshow here. Yeah, here at the Alliance4ai, we decided to start hosting this growth conversations in what we have called the Future Makers program. As many of you will agree, African universities don't teach us about future skills or teach us about the workplace, the skills that will make you shine, for example, communication skills and how to work with people, or even what we call legacy and African history of innovation, which really helps you to be aware of what you're capable of. That's why we created a curriculum, basically a curation of videos on different topics that videos and articles on these topics for you guys to consume by yourself. And from time to time, you can decide to join a call like this, where you discuss it with other people like yourself. And so this very conversation is the one we're calling using generative AI at work. It's under future technology. Similar to this, there are many other topics that you might be interested in yourself. So feel free to take a screenshot of this so that you can decide, how you want to engage the topics. We have about 30 different topics, and they are all very critical topics to what you're going to do as professionals. In fact, this last slide, I think, gives you information on how to access the remaining topics. You can do it as part of a group, like I said. Basically, you would join this link, A4AIapp.org. It's a new page that one of the professionals decided to build for us. He's a student at a college, so that was actually phenomenal of him. And I hope the next person volunteers. We're non-profit, so we take volunteers. Someone volunteers who's a designer to help improve the design. But at least the application is working, so we're really thankful to that student that built it for us. All right, so you can join that, and you can select a circle that is in your country. You have Kenya, Tanzania, South Africa, Nigeria. And if your country is not there, you can talk to us and we can create your country circle, or you can create a circle for your university if that's what you want. That way you can create discussions and invite people to join you to talk about the topic. And the last one here is a way to do it as an individual, right? If you don't find people in a group to work with you, you can also access the content as an individual and work with an AI teacher to help you with the process. I won't talk about this so much. You can take a screenshot of the page. But for now, I know that we are now at the top of the hour where we said we will end this phenomenal presentation. So some of you might need to leave because you have another meeting, even though it's on Saturday. But those of you who have questions, you can stay and let's ask a few questions of the speakers. Speakers as well, if you need to leave, just send up a message. But please, if you can stay for 5 minutes, let's see if there's some questions from the audience. Perhaps you can raise your hand or write the question on the chat, and Betty is the expert. Betty, you can maybe help us see how we can grab a few questions.
Yeah, sure. There was a question for Ashley at the beginning of the session. Let me just see if I can get it. Rose, you can actually help me as well to get the question.
It was by Amir. He asked, Ashley, can you tell me what would be more better if ChatGPT had it? That makes sense.
Okay, it doesn't make sense. Amir Hussein, are you here with us? Maybe you can actually just ask that question if you're still here. It's not really understandable as you texted it.
Yeah,
Amir Hussein, are you here? Okay. Let's go to Izogu. You can ask your question. I hope Amir will be around.
All right, thank you very much. Can you hear me just to confirm?
Yes.
Yes.
My question is this, and it goes to Esa Mohammed concerning what he did with ChatGPT. So I want to ask a question that is so direct. Since the version of ChatGPT that he's using for the data project is the premium version of it, of which what is mostly available is the basic version. So I want to know, is there any way the basic version can be used? And if not, what difference does the premium version makes in using it for data analysis as compared to other tools like Azure? So that's my question.
Sure. So I won't be able to give a lot of context because, again, I'm a non-coder at this point, so I haven't played much with like Azure's platforms. And honestly, I've been paying for premium GPT for a few months now, so I'm fully in that wagon. So first, I'm using GPT Code Interpreter, which the beta of Code Interpreter was launched last week. So this is very, very new. And if you're paying for GPT, then you need to go in your settings and beta and enable code interpreter. It's not enabled by default. And that gives you the option to upload files. And I say files because it's not just CSVs or Excels or such. Like I can actually upload a Word document. I can upload an Excel file. I think I can also upload like code files, like Python files and such, but I haven't tested that just yet, but I believe you can. The main advantage at this point that I've seen so far is the fact that we're using natural language. So you can ask it a question in natural language and let it do its thing. And in some cases, what I've done is I've uploaded a data set and just been like, tell me something interesting about this data set. And it does visualizations, it does some basic analysis, it does description of the data forms that are inside of it. But I didn't ask it specifically for anything because I didn't know what to ask it for. So I was just like, I have this data. I just want to know what's interesting about it. And it does that on its own kind of thing. When it comes to using the normal GPT, so one thing to remember is that non-premium GPT, the free version, is using 3.5. The premium is using 4. Code interpreter is integrated with 4. And there are differences in the abilities of the two. You could probably use 3.5 for initial basic things. So for example, nothing stopping you from taking the features that are listed on a data set, sending them to the model via text and saying, these are the features I have. This is the problem I need to address. How would you go about it? And it could just give you instructions on how to approach the problem. But of course, I haven't played enough to validate that.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, the next question, a quick one, goes to Zindi as a platform hosting data scientists and machine learning engineers. Is this kind of solution, when it's being provided, is this kind of solution accepted? Does it not break the terms and conditions of Zindi as a platform? Thank you very much.
Rose. Okay.
Thank you for that question. Definitely, Izogu, it's something we are going to check in. I'm going to check in with the team and confirm. But we also have code reviews in which we also run our models through other methods to ensure that it's verifiable under Zindi. So it's definitely something I'll check in with the team, and then during the next session, I will let you guys know about more context on that. Again, ChatGPT is really new, and its capabilities are also shocking the ecosystem. But definitely there are some measures that we'll have to put in, and also readable code is important. So we are going to check into that and then give you more context. But thank you for that.
Rose,
Yes, Selena.
Actually, hi. This is Selena from Zindi. Maybe I can weigh in on it, and I suppose you're probably right, Rose. We should check with the team and have a firm answer on it. But I think in general, to answer to address the question, I think it's a really exciting time and a really exciting space. There's huge opportunities to make AI even more inclusive than it ever has been before. So I think in general with Zindi, our idea is that we want the solutions to be open source or to use open source tools. So I think if you're paying for code interpreter, that, if your solution is dependent on code interpreter, that would probably be an issue, because for the clients that are ultimately going to use the solution, we want them to be able to replicate and be able to use the solutions without having to pay for any type of service. But on the other hand, if code interpreter is producing Python code that is usable and works, I would say for now it is completely fine. It's actually another tool that that you're able to use. Just one last thing I wanted to say about it is that we have a knowledge competition that we just launched last week that is calling on the community to use ChatGPT, only prompt engineering, to develop a natural language processing solution in Swahili. So I'd encourage you guys to look at it, and maybe I'll try to drop it in the chat, but you should definitely play around with that. And that's where we're asking you explicitly to use ChatGPT for your solution.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for that. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, let's see if we can ask one more. Who's going to take the last question?
Okay, let me take the last question then. So I'll ask this question to John. I don't know if he's still here.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, you're here. I'm just curious. I'm just asking this question out of curiosity. All developers, I think we know Stack Overflow, and ChatGPT has come and just taken over that space. And I know I will not be surprised to hear people coming up with applications or tools to test whether code that has been deployed has been from ChatGPT, or people have actually written it down by themselves. So I just want to know, is that something that's relevant? Because when people want business, they do want business, and they look for business in many ways. So I'm not really surprised if that kind of comes up. So is that really relevant, and how will it affect developers working in organizations like like Microsoft,
Right,
and startups? Yeah.
interesting. First off is, I think for a lot of years, developers, have been using Stack Overflow, as you rightly mentioned, to just take code. So you tend, not just on the Stack Overflow, but even actually looking for code solutions on like GitHub and the rest. So it's going to be really, really hard. And I don't think it's feasible to even build a ChatGPT detector to hey, did you use ChatGPT in this code? Especially because those codes are just pieces of a much larger software, and it's going to be you have a project that's composed of so many codes, and you need ChatGPT to help you with a piece of it, right? So in that case, it's not going to be quite clear that there is a way to tell that, especially when so many algorithms and ways of solving problems are standardized. So even without using something like ChatGPT, if you write a code in Google, you write it under Microsoft, you could probably find them to be very similar in the way they are constructed. So, but yeah, it's an interesting, I think the more interesting part is going to be just being concerned about releasing confidential things. Right, that's a bigger problem, which for that reason, it's important to be really careful. One of the things I would suggest is there's this product, GitHub Copilot X, which is a special version of ChatGPT that's GitHub made that is integrated with your code and stuff. And I think it has better protections in place in terms of how the data is utilized and is exposed. So it will be worth checking out GitHub Copilot X. I'll paste the link in the chat.
Thank you so much, John, for that. I think I'll hand it back to Alex to conclude for us.
Thank you so very much, Patty. I thought this was a phenomenal event, phenomenal show. In fact, we've learned so much about ChatGPT, and what we are wanting is to inspire people on this call to go use it. What we found was that people have heard of it, and some people play with it and use it at home, but they've not started to use it at work. And so I hope the speakers today have been able to make you jealous of how fast they are and how much quality of work they're able to produce in a very short period of time, so that you can go and do the same thing, right? This is your way of getting your next promotion, if I can say that, but by using these tools to create your first draft, which you will edit yourself, right? Don't submit the thing it tells you. You have to be the human who checks it out. But this tool can really help you go far. And as I said before, in addition to this, this is what we do. We try to find topics that will help you move along in your career, whether you're in school or you are working at a place. You can come through to Future Makers and we can share with you topics like this that will help you get along. But now we are over 1 hour and we thank you all for joining. We'll have to come to a close now. And when we're able to get a video of the session, we'll send it to everybody who joins so you can share it with your friends who couldn't make this call. Once again, thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Bye.